How are you, friends of the tormentors? We will talk today about a character I personally love and was one of the most important figures in my intellectual life. He is the legendary militant doctor, writer, guerrilla leader, military leader, world statesman and the main figure in the Cuban Revolution. As he is a Marxist revolutionary who became an icon in the world of socialist-communist struggle that spread in many countries of the world in the second half of the 20th century. It's Che Guevara. Ernesto Che Guevara de la Serna, the Cuban revolutionary leader, was born in Rosario, Argentina, in 1928, and studied pre-Toro medicine throughout South America in accordance with the circumstances that motivated his Marxist beliefs. Fidel Castro helped overthrow the Batista government in the late 1950s, then held key political positions during Castro's rule, such as the Ministry of Agriculture, the presidency of the National Bank and the leadership of the armed forces. He participated in guerrilla warfare elsewhere, including Bolivia, where he was arrested and executed in 1967. Ernesto Che Guevara de la Serna was born in Rosario, Argentina, in 1928, into a middle-class family and suffered from asthma in his youth, but was still able to consider himself an athlete. He also snorted the left-wing political visions of his family and friends, became a political activist during his adolescence, and joined a group that opposed Juan Perón's government. After graduating from high school with honors, Guevara studied medicine at the University of Buenos Aires, but in 1951 left college to tour all over South America with a friend. The poor living conditions of their 9-month journey had a profound impact on Guevara. He returned to medical school the following year, and his intention was to provide care to those in need. He received his degree in 1953. Guevara was also a writer, who used to write his diary, and the most notable publication was a booklet entitled The Memoirs of a Young Man on a Motorcycle. As Che Guevara became increasingly interested in Marxism, he decided to abandon medicine, believing that only the revolution could bring justice to the people of South America. In 1953, he traveled to Guatemala, where he witnessed the overthrow of her leftist government with the support of the CIA, which strengthened his convictions. By 1955, Guevara was married and living in Mexico, where he met Cuban revolutionary Fidel Castro and his brother Raúl, who were planning to overthrow the government of Fulgencio Batista. When their few armed forces landed in Cuba on December 2, 1956, Guevara was with them and among the few who survived the first attack. Over the next few years, Che became Castro's main advisor and commander of the growing guerrilla forces in their attacks on the collapsed Batista regime. On their first meeting, Che said, "I met him during one of the cold nights in Mexico, and I remember our first conversation is about international politics." Fidel Castro said about that meeting, "On the same night around the morning I was one of the participants in the campaign with Grandma. He knew a lot about Marxism-Leninism, self-reflection, very keen on learning, and was convinced of Leninism. When we met Che, he was really an educated revolutionary." In January 1959, Fidel Castro took control of Cuba and appointed Guevara in charge of the prison of La Cabana, where hundreds of people are estimated to have been executed by Guevara's non-judicial orders. He later appointed president of the National Bank and Minister of Industry, and did much to turn the country into a communist state. In the early 1960s, Guevara also served as ambassador to Cuba after obtaining citizenship on February 9, and the world came with the intention of establishing relations with other countries, notably the Soviet Union, which was a key player during the Bay of Pigs invasion and the Cuban Missile Crisis. From July to August, he toured as head of an official delegation to the United Arab Emirates and Egypt, where he met Gamal Abdel Nasser. The trip continued to India, Thailand, Japan, Indonesia, and Pakistan. On his return, Che expressed surprise at the sympathy aroused by the Cuban Revolution around the world. On October 17, Che advised college students, "Be in touch with people, not help them with knowledge or anything like an aristocratic lady who gives currency to a beggar, but to become contributors to the revolutionary forces that govern Cuba today. To be part of the revolution, and at the same time, to have experience that may be more important than all the interesting things you learn in these curricula." On 23rd of November, he created the Day of Volunteer Work in Cuba. He also published a booklet on guerrilla warfare, and in 1964 he addressed the United Nations condemning U.S. foreign policy and apartheid in South Africa. By 1965, When the Cuban economy was in a state of disrepair, Guevara had left office to export his revolutionary ideology to other parts of the world. He first traveled to Congo to train guerrilla forces in support of a revolution there, but left the same year when it failed. After his brief return to Cuba, Che Guevara left for Bolivia in 1966 with a small rebel force to ignite the revolution there. However, he was arrested and killed by the Bolivian army in La Higuera on October 9, 1967. Since his death, Guevara has become a legendary political figure. His name is often linked to rebellion, revolution and socialism, but others say he could be ruthless and has ordered the summary execution of prisoners in Cuba. In any case, Guevara's life remains of great public interest and has been explored and photographed in many books and films, including The Motorcycle Diaries and Che Guevara Fast Facts. He was a lover of poetry and philosophy and played chess. He was nicknamed Il Shanshu, or the pig, for not paying much attention to his personal hygiene. He traveled from Argentina to various parts of South America on his motorcycle. He favored mass executions of traitors, spies and informants. He was elevated to the saint's degree after his death. In the end, I give you my regards, and I'd like you to tell me in the comments about the character you want to talk about.